Hi everyone, I'm Benjamin Jude, the Spotlight Kid. Welcome to another episode of Album Explorations. Today we're going to shine the spotlight on another underappreciated band that has all the ingredients but for whatever reason never really broke through in a big way. The band is Jag Panzer, and today I'm exploring their magnificent album Mechanized Warfare. Jag Panzer were in the original group of US power metal bands that came out in the early and mid 80s, along with bands like Manowar, Riot, Omen, Warlord, Virgin Steel, and several others. Jag Panzer were, at the forefront of this new approach to metal. It was a harder, faster approach to the traditional heavy metal and would be somewhat of a bridge to the more extreme styles of thrash and speed metal, which would quickly follow. I was tempted to talk about their first EP, Tyrants, from 1983, or their fantastic debut album, Ample Destruction, from 1984. But I think of all their stuff, those are the most well-known and loved. And today, I wanted to dig into one of my personal favorite albums of theirs, and one that seems to get somewhat overlooked, Mechanized Warfare. So, inspired by the new wave of British heavy metal, singer Harry Conklin, later nicknamed Tyrant, guitarist Mark Briotti, bass player John Tetley, and drummer Rick Hilliard would come together to form the first incarnation of the band in 1981 under the moniker of Tyrant. They were soon forced to change the name as there was already a California band with that name, so eventually they landed on Jag Panzer. It's the name of like a German World War II tank, which they changed the spelling of and whatever. Anyway, after recording the EP Tyrants in 1983, Joey Tafola would join the band, and in 1984 they released their killer debut, Ample Destruction. Even though the album was an underground hit, Harry Conklin, Joey Tafola, and Rick Hilliard would all go off to other projects, and the band was sort of halted in its path until the remaining guys, Briotti and Tetley, reconstituted the band with singer Bob Parduba, I think that's how you say his name, and Swedish Rickard Sternquist. Sorry if I messed those up, on drums. And also on the guitar, of course, another easy name to say, Christian Lasegue, I think it is. Christian, if that's wrong, I'm really sorry. Anyway, they would return to the studio and record the follow-up album, Chain of Command. However, it wouldn't be released until many years later in 2004. I'll probably talk about that album on another episode because it's truly a fantastic album, and it's also one of my favorites from these guys. Awesome stuff. Anyway, the band would sort of lay dormant until 1994, when they would reconvene with a new singer and guitarist and release Dissident Alliance. This album, however, was a complete stylistic shift into a more 90s thrash and groove metal sound, and is easily my least favorite Jag Panzer album. I just can't get into that one. I almost sort of see it as a totally different band. Anyway, after a few years, Conklin, the Tyrant, is back on the microphone, and Joe Tafola is back to the guitar for their magnificent return to form, the album The Fourth Judgment, released in 1997. Then we get Chris Broderick of future Megadeth fame replacing Joey for the next few albums. 1998's The Age of Mastery, another great album. Thane to the Throne from 2000, also good. Bit more sort of progressive in the theme. And finally, to the album that we're discussing, 2001's Mechanized Warfare. I have to say that their run of albums from The Fourth Judgment in 97 until their latest 2017's The Defiant Chord is one of the most consistently great runs of albums in metal. Not a weak one in the bunch. Anyway, so that brings us up to today's album. So let's dig into Mechanized Warfare. So we get to track 1, Take to the Sky. Immediately we get hit with an epic, heavy riff punctuated by strings in the back to add to the grandeur. The verse comes in with a bouncy staccato riff, and Harry the Tyrant gives us his gravelly but also clean melodic delivery. The melody is already catchy and apparent, then the chorus lifts up, starting with a chugging riff and opening up and expanding. The vocals are harmonized, soaring above, and the melody is rich and epic, and the band hammers it out with a perfect tight awesomeness. We cycle again through these movements, and then the feel moves in another more, in a darker sort of direction. And then we get Chris's fantastic guitar shred attack. This song, which lyrically deals with the aerial bombardment, death from above, attack on the enemy, delivers the story with epic power and confident precision. They cycle through the verse and chorus again to wrap up this killer opener. Fantastic song. So that brings us to track 2, Frozen in Fear. They open with fast riffing and the drum pummeling underneath, while the dual guitars shred a fast lead line over the top. The verse chugs along with the Tyrant giving another great melody through the verse, and it again opens up into a pre-chorus with more rich vocal harmony. The chorus is catchy and has a great lead guitar line pushing through it, and ends with some guitar trills to wrap up the section. It sounds absolutely killer. After that, they cycle around again through the verse. We then get some tasty shred attack from Chris. You can see why he got the job in Megadeth. The dude can shred. They give us a few more cycles, and Tyrant relates the tale of a young girl plagued by it's like either the reality of an abusive father or the sort of nightmare of the same, and sort of how she vows to survive and repay with blood the injustice done to her. Another epic, powerful song. That brings us to track 3, Unworthy. So this biblically themed song deals with the protagonist seeking and not finding some sort of redemption and absolution for his past sins. Ultimately, giving his soul, blood, and life in the attempt. The music opens with that sort of Gregorian church-style chanting, and then we get a beautiful acoustic passage with a single female operatic voice angelically sweetening it further. It builds up with a distorted slow riff as the band kicks in, and the guitar floats some nice harmonized lines over it. The verse returns to that initial feel, but with an elegant single violin line and more choirs. Really cool stuff. But it doesn't stay there for long. The band kicks it up into power metal land again, into the next verse with a catchy lead line, moving it into the chorus, which again has that choral chanting backing it up and sounding just fantastic, super epic and classy and awesome. The vocal is terrific as usual, with Harry the Tyrant delivering another passionate performance. We get another Chris guitar exhibition, and once again everything just fits perfectly. These guys just put songs together so well. So anyway, that brings us to track 4, The Silent. So I think this one is about vampires, or maybe just some other immortal creature that feeds on the innocent and unwilling, something like that. The protagonist, however, seems to want to live that life and become this feared creature, and seems to be successful by the song's end, although perhaps regretful, as he seems to be longing for the soul he left behind. That's basically the ballpark anyway. The riffs kick off with some tasty mid-paced drum grooves underneath and into the verse. The chorus once again gives us a strong, memorable melody, and vocal harmony gives everything a grandeur and colour that enhances everything. The solo again rips over sort of simplified version of the verse riff, and after repeating the verse and chorus movements, the song goes out with the dual epic line from earlier in the song. Then along comes track 5, The Scarlet Letter. So, here we have a song about a practitioner of the world's oldest profession, prostitute. So this Scarlet is her name. She prowls the avenues for her next prey. I'm not quite sure if she is doing anything beyond taking men to their fantasy limits, or if she's also killing them. But hey, you know, the song kills in any case, so it doesn't really matter. So anyway, the song kicks in hard with Tyrant launching straight into the story with the guitars chugging away in harmony underneath. It builds with more harmony into the earworm chorus. He sings it almost gently, even though it's sort of rocking, and then explodes with "She wears the scarlet letter." So fucking cool. Anyway, the solo takes us on another journey and brings Tyrant back to warn us of Scarlet's exploits. Those vocals leading up to the chorus line are so cool with the multiple lines and harmonies going. Another song just executed to perfection. So then we come to track 6, Choir of Tears. Choir of Tears begins with a kind of call and response section between the bass riff and the guitars, then sort of settles into a super tasty stomp and riff and groove with the verse vocals again in a harmonized line. These guys definitely love their harmonies, and so do I. Anyway, it feels like it drops down on the stairway to hell, and the chorus is both doomy and uplifting at the same time, laced with harmony and power. The guitar launches into a ripping solo, and we go through another verse, but this time instead of dropping down, it lifts up, and we get another shred guitar offensive. The song wraps up with another uplifting chorus and with more dual guitar goodness. So cool. So then we get to track 7, Cold is the Blade and the Heart that it wields. So here we have a song straight from the power metal lyrics playbook. A man singing about battle and the bravery of the heart versus the cold of the steel. I like Harry's lyrics, you know, even though they are familiar themes, he always puts the words together in a non-cheesy way that's cool and you know, engaging and fits the music perfectly. This one kicks off with cool mid-paced riffing that then leads into a Man-O-War-like vibe through the verse section. The chorus is melodic and uplifting with harmony sprinkled around, and you can see in your mind the warriors on the battlefield, swords held high in victory. The song takes a bit of a turn, and we're treated to a beautiful violin passage. You know, it reminds me of the Bach piece that Captain Jack and the Doctor played together in the movie Master and Commander. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, it's a great movie. I don't know, it just reminds me of that scene. Anyway, then the sort of chugging guitar harmony comes back, and with Tyrant continuing the story, it builds into a super cool groove and then an eruptive solo. This whole sequence is very cool. Anyway, brings us on to track 8, Hidden in My Eyes. So the song kicks off with a super smooth, slower, heavy groove, and with another catchy dual guitar lead above it. Tyrant passionately tells the tale of a man longing for a woman who is either out of his reach or has moved on. I'm not quite sure what he's going on about, but nevertheless, his voice is powerful and drives the verses on with force as always. The chorus gives us more harmony and strong melody. Of course, we get more tasty guitar shred from Chris, and the song wraps up with the cool intro section, riff, and guitar harmony. In some sense, you know, this album is hard to pull apart because Jag Panzer doesn't have a huge variety of elements. They have great riffs, powerful melodies, engaging vocal and instrumental harmonies, some light symphonic elements, and great performances from the band, but that's basically the same on all their songs. So I can't say anything too new on this track that I haven't said before, However, what they do is done to perfection virtually every time. So it makes it a bit hard to review their albums, but extremely enjoyable to listen to their music. So next is track 9, Power Surge. Anyway, so that brings us to another epic charger, and he comes out of the gate riffing hard, and Tyrant's singing his lungs out at the upper range and sounding killer. He's telling the tale of hell-grown dark children rising to devour a defeated Earth. Oh, and reminding us that the band are metal till they die. Manowar would be proud. The melody is again deep and instantly catchy and memorable, and the addition of keyboard strings, I think they're keyboard strings, it lifts it all up, just lifts it up a notch. We come to a choral section with the choir chant sitting on top of another kicking riff, and then they make a swift turn into the killer solo. This one is sharp and epic with great drumming and band performances laced with choir and soaring vocals throughout. What more could you ask for, really? Then we get to track 10, All Things Renewed. A gentle acoustic guitar-led intro and verse begins this Armageddon tale, as Tyrant laments wanting to save mankind, but being only able to watch its downfall. The band sort of kicks into power metal heaven, and once again we get their trademark power, melody, and harmony. It builds up through these sections to eventually return to the melancholy of the intro for another verse, only to be abruptly punctured by chugging riffs and Chris Broderick melting some faces with his flamethrower. His guitar. The heavy chorus returns and builds to an epic outro with cinematic choir-style vocals to wrap up this last fantastic track. Or does it? So the band has a little mini hidden track tacked onto the ends of this one, which is a old-timey piano version of the Scarlet Letter. It's kind of kooky, but I guess it gave the band a bit of a chuckle, so why not? Anyway, so that brings us to the end of this killer album. So how would I rate this one? Well, as I discussed before, even though the band does somewhat repeat themselves stylistically, the elements they use are so cool that it doesn't detract from the experience at all. In fact, there's a certain comfort you get from the band this consistent, when the consistency is also one of excellence. Well, when you've got a winning formula. Maybe the production is a touch more modern sounding than I like, and the drums are the main culprit there. However, it's certainly not terrible, and the performances easily make up for it. The playing is top tier throughout, songwriting is spot on, and Harry the Tyrant Conklin has a great distinctive voice too. So, with all that in mind, I would give this album a strong 9 out of 10. I love every track on this album, and I love this criminally underrated band. And I only deducted a point for the production being good but not great. So if you like US or European power metal or epic metal or just melodic, classic heavy metal, definitely do yourself a favor and go check out this band's material. You can't go wrong starting here with Mechanized Warfare. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining me to shine the spotlight on another underrated gem of a band. Please go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel. There will be many more album explorations and other stuff coming soon. And feel free to check out all the previous videos on the channel too. Anyway guys, from me, the Spotlight Kid, thanks for watching. Keep it metal and see you next time.